जिस महफिल ने ठुकराया हमको, क्यों उस महफिल को याद करें? आगे लम्हे बुला रहे हैं, आओ उनके साथ चलें।
Before I get into the main crux of the video, I thought it was important just to say a few things. I wrote a few things as I heard the news and I was contemplating everything that was happening, so this is what I wrote. I'm sorry, Sushant. I'm sorry that no one still truly understands you. I'm sorry for the barbaric nature with which we have dealt with your loss. We as humans have disgustingly departed from any form of empathy and kindness. We have made theories and villains around your decision. In the pain that you felt, the misery you must be in, we couldn't even let your soul depart in peace. I don't know what happened to us. As humans, as a society, something oddly has changed, or maybe nothing has changed. We assume we know how hard it is, how lonely it is, how painfully oscillating it is. But we have no clue. I'm sorry for all the judgment as viewers scathingly judged you in every interview. Your body language and want to express everything under the sky and the sky itself was broken down by us as if we had any idea of your mind. You will forever be Manav from Pavitra Rishta in some eyes, who dared to transition, dream big, and made it a reality. You gave hope to many to take that plunge, to simply be dreamy eyed and believe. All the chips were stacked against you, and you still made it a reality. A boy from Patna could be a Hindi film superstar, and you were. I can keep on contemplating how you would have carved your career in the future years to come, as you had so much to offer. But I know for everyone affected by your departure, they have been forced to introspect and re engineer themselves with the way they interact with one another, devoid of judgment and malice. You will forever be Ishan from Kaipo Che, our capable Hindi Byomkesh Bakshi, our Indian captain on celluloid Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Mansoor from Kedarnath, Lucknow from Soncharaya, and Anni from Chichore. Even though my contribution is a needle in a haystack, your loss has made me want to learn about what possibly could be the reason why, as humans, we have detached from one another completely. To know how we can learn from here and just be better on a daily basis. To educate all of you further in memory of Sushant and several others, I'm joined by Manvi Sharma, a counseling psychologist, to talk about several ways in which we can help and contribute to society by aiding others who might be suffering. So, Manvi, I wanted someone who is in the field of psychology to
Mhm.
speak about the matter because there's a lot of conjecture, a lot of statements
Mhm.
online which have like deeply saddened me and disturbed me. But just before we get into it, could you just tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. Hi, my name is Manvi. I have been trained as a counseling psychologist. So it's been 2.5 years since I have been working in the field of mental health. I'm associated with multiple organizations where I work as consultant psychologist. So I take up a lot of therapeutic cases, and I am working mostly with adolescents and adults, essentially more to do with emotional difficulties, exploring their relationship with self and others.
Okay.
So I've been trained in other different techniques. So this has been my work so far.
Okay. Manvi, I also wanted to inquire, would you have any idea just about the magnitude of the issue when it comes with mental health in India, especially, and sort of the reason why there's such a lack of awareness or ignorance towards mental health in general in the country?
Definitely. So the schools that I have been working with, so firstly, I'd like to also establish that this has got a lot also to do with the socio-economic political environment also that we function in. So the schools that I have worked with, the students do belong to affluent families, where, however, I would not really draw this conclusion that someone's economic status has got anything to do with their mental awareness, or let's just say the way they perceive mental awareness. But definitely those conversations, there are scope of those conversations taking place. So in terms of the schools, so the first school that I work with, there was a lot of importance given to mental health, and it was one of the best schools in Delhi that was doing great work in mental health. So mental health was placed above academic health. So fortunately, I was working in an environment like that, but I've also been exposed to non-profit organizations where people are not even aware that what mental health is. And coming back to the environment where I've mostly worked with, there are parents, there are families, and especially students or young adults who come in a therapeutic setup. They do share that I won't be able to disclose this to my parent that I'm taking therapy, because they hold very different opinion. There is a lot of stigmatization which is there around mental health. There are historical understanding of why it has been happening. But I think, especially when you're talking about the recent unfortunate death of Sushant Rajput that took place some days back, I think it also calls for a community failure in that sense, because a lot of us are responsible somewhere. It is not just a responsibility of an individual, because man is a social being, right? I feel it is neither a cowardly act nor an act of bravery, right? uh, there's something called depression. And even organizations like WHO a few years back, that they started off with this campaign called Let's Talk. So depression is one of the major causes that is leading to suicide, and it is a mental disorder. The reason why we call it a disorder is because the order in which we live our daily life, the order in which we function in our daily lives, there is a complete disorder that takes place, right? So it's not just one aspect of our life which is being affected. There are multiple aspects of our life which is being affected. So I would really encourage people to watch this video by WHO, which says that I live with a dog named depression, to understand how is it to live with depression, how it literally robs an individual from living a normal life. So it affects your thought processes, it affects your emotions, it affects your feelings, it makes you want to isolate. And that's where the community, the close people that you are around, they really need to step in. So,
Manvi, I
yeah.
would want to ask you because um, as of now, the environment online has become extremely toxic because people are throwing around that word, the word called depression, as if they know what it means. And then also throwing out the word, correlating it to several aspects of his life, that this was the reason why it happened, and at the same time also projecting their anger towards someone or a particular faction, saying that that's what took him to that edge. If somebody wanted to ask you what's the difference between sadness and depression, would you have a clear difference between the two?
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of difference between sadness and depression that we talk about. Sadness is more to do with, so let's just say currently in this environment, a lot of us are experiencing these feelings of sadness, right? We are feeling hopeless. Depression is categorized as a mental disorder. Firstly, we see the severity of that, how since how long has this person been feeling so low, right? The severity, the frequency, and the intensity. So these are the things that are being seen. So perhaps let's just say that a person has been feeling really sad with not being able to go out. Like especially a lot of children. Children is one age group that they are really deprived of going back, and it's really affecting their childhood experiences. So that is one part, when a person is feeling sad that they cannot go out. Maybe some days they would feel sad, and there can be moments when they might feel that, okay, let's just do this, let's just engage in another conversation, or let's just engage in a particular activity. Depression per se, if it persists for so there is a particular criteria that we follow. There's a criteria called DSM-5 criteria that we follow, that your mood, of course your mood has been low for over a long time. There has been decrease in the activities that one used to enjoy a lot, right? There are feelings of hopelessness, there are feelings of worthlessness, and a person feels completely helpless. So there are a lot of symptoms that have got to do with it. Apart from just feeling that, okay, I'm feeling very low, what can I do about it? So in depression, a person feels completely consumed by those feelings,
Mhm.
wherein maybe they would want to isolate themselves completely, and they just feel that this is it, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of external feelings, they are internalized within an individual, wherein they start to feel. So, statements like, I am depressed, or she is depressed, he is depressed, that's a group of people who are depressed. It's a little insensitive to start off with, because a person is not depressed, a person is experiencing depression. So one of the techniques that a lot of psychotherapists use, or they are trained in, is called narrative therapy. And I would really want to take this moment to establish the statement that they talk about. It's also a way of life for a lot of people, that the person is not a problem, the problem is a problem, and the problem is social. So person is not a problem here. Let's just try isolating the problem from a person. He or she has had more narratives than only having depression. There are multiple stories to it, and that also makes you feel that who is narrating the story, right? There's a lot of game of power and privilege that takes place. Who knows this person well? Who has given this person a right to narrate this story? Was this person even there throughout this individual's journey?
Yeah.
So, reaching out to a mental health professional is essential, and there can be times that a person may feel reluctant, because anyway, that person feels that there is very less meaning left around. So that's where, when I mentioned that community stepping in, close friends stepping in, and ever since this, so I'll just share like a small anecdote from the last session that I had with one of my clients yesterday. So she mentioned that when when this whole thing was trending, it really turned out to be triggering for me. And my mother turned to me and she just said that, I hope you won't do anything like that, right? And she just mentioned that, I hope you are not going through the same issue. So one thing is also there, that sometimes people may feel reluctant in reaching out, and these communities that we are building, even there are a lot of awareness programs that are happening. A lot of amazing pages have come up where they are sharing information. I personally have a professional space on Instagram where I share anecdotes from therapy so that people understand what therapy is about.
Yeah. So, especially in reference to that, what you were talking about when it comes to social media, I also came to the conclusion from just human behavior itself was that people want things to be presented in black and white. They want a reason why something must have happened, so they correlate it to the system, the people, etc. But it's a much more layered and nuanced issue, right?
Right, definitely. And I personally feel that, it's okay to, whenever we come across news like this, I think as sensitive and empathetic human beings, it's it's okay to take a step back and just understand that I don't know the whole, I don't know the complete story, right? I didn't know this person personally, and this person is more to do with just this act. So, being cautious, being sensitive in terms of using your freedom of expression is very important.
Yeah.
It's not judgment. That's how we are not in a courtroom
Yeah.
where we decide if this is right or this is wrong. Let's just be sensitive about it. That whatever happened is very unfortunate, and what can we do about it? So, as a psychologist myself, I have a lot of friends who have taken up this. So there's a very um, nice training that is happening, which is called gatekeeper training. So a
I
lot of
saw it with the
great
Suicide
QPR.
Prevention India Foundation, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
that
okay.
that organization is doing great work, and there's something called QPR gatekeeping training. So it's more to do, and I think I myself am going to take it up, because I think it's more, it's aimed at anybody who is strategically positioned to recognize and refer someone to, maybe when you see that this person is at a risk of suicide. And those individuals can be coaches, teachers, neighbors, parents, friends, professionals. And I feel, as as even from childhood we are exposed to something called disaster management training, right?
Yeah.
uh, अगर आग लगेगी तो कैसे rescue करना है. I think if we even include trainings like these in the educational curriculum, or if we voluntarily take up these trainings, it would make a lot of difference. If not, I think it would really help in creating emotionally safe spaces for individuals to feel
Yeah.
accepted, to feel okay with whatever they're feeling, and to feel more empathetic and not rather being judged or stigmatized that you are weak or
Yeah.
you couldn't take, or maybe you have a poor willpower. No, it's not about that. It goes beyond that. So it's okay. Let us not be mental health experts if we do not have enough knowledge about it, and speak to a mental health expert. Like a lot of my friends, they reached out to me to understand. So they also had these, queries that does this really happen? Has it really got nothing to do with willpower? Now those, those questions, they create spaces for dialogues
Yeah.
rather than snap judgments. Ki he was weak, and this is what has happened. So I
Yeah.
think let's just be more mindful of the freedom of expression that we have, because it can actually affect a lot of people around, and it's just not empathetic. Yeah.
In reference to that, I fully agree, because I wanted to understand how can we re-engineer ourselves and contribute in order to change ourselves with the way we interact with one another. And that's a great suggestion. With the gatekeeper program is something that everyone can do in identifying that there are signs or issues, and then you can with the process know how to tackle it. Also, I
Right.
wanted to ask, especially, I was seeing Tanmay Bhatt's live stream 2 days back, and he was talking about, in the 1980s, the most sought after profession was to become an astronaut because everyone was looking at you. And right now in
Hmm.
2020, the most aspirational occupation that a lot of the youth want to do is YouTubers. Why? Because they want validation from outside of people liking you. So you want to be revered as a person who contributes something, and there's a following when it comes with that. Now, what's happened with social media is that, as you're saying, with the freedom of expression being practiced with a sense of empathy, that gets completely lost when it's triggered by likes and retweets. So statements are being said which riles up an entire audience to support that statement without understanding that a human is going through something right now. So i
Hmm.
don't i don't understand how we've detached so much while being so connected online.
Hmm.
But I guess the least that can be done is providing insight on how we can contribute through these gatekeeper training programs, so that we can understand their perspective even a little bit if we can.
Like yourself, a lot of people, are interested in my viewpoints, and I'm generally not in such situations often where I'm given a platform to express. So I've been generally talking since morning, and then sometimes it's very disturbing. What happened is really disturbing. Although I didn't know him really personally, but as actors, we can find some empathy. At least we think we can find some empathy. So that really shakes you up a little bit also, because you're like, it can happen to any one of us. That dark place.
Yeah, I saw your story, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to interview you because was that I've realized that the small community that we've sort of created,
Yeah.
really respects you and just the work that you've done and what you stand for. So in that atmosphere, I thought that it was important that I get a perspective which is from a person who has had to prove himself only through his craft and nothing else. So
Yeah.
I really wanted your opinion because I saw your story. Your story was talking about the difficult game that needs to be played, and some people know how to play it, but it's a difficult journey. So just in that sense, I wanted to understand, like, uh, how are you processing it, and being an outsider who's just had to work his ass off for the past 10 years.
It's very disturbing because you connect with you think you connect with it because you're a fellow actor. We all go through rejection, a process of rejection. Want our careers to do better. We are all aspirational. And then it's also really surprising because from my perspective, he had a great career. He was doing really well for himself. A couple of films didn't really work. We can endlessly speculate why, and we can endlessly point fingers and blame anybody, anything. But it's really shattering because he was a source of inspiration to many because he was a self-made person. He achieved whatever he did in the TV industry and then eventually in the film industry on his own. And I think he was in a very good place. If by speculation he took his own life because of disappointments, then that's really fuck all. Nobody should be in that place. Why? I mean, it really, and then it makes you think about your hustle. I mean, it's all a hustle, right? Everybody's trying to, you go to an award show, you go somewhere else, you're always trying to meet people, make an impression on them, networking, as they say. It can be extremely tiring, man. It's exhausting because it's that much more competitive, and every year there's I remember like 2011, I had the spotlight on me, and it scared the shit out of me because everybody was like, talking about me and they wanted to meet me and like, you're so good at this and that and all that. And I couldn't handle that. I wanted to just leave because I wasn't ready, and that saved me. And some other people are ready. They're ready for it. They're like, come, let's make it now. And it's really crazy because it really is hard sometimes, and it's hard to handle. And if you don't find a way to sort of figure it out how to protect yourself, and a lot of them who come here are very ambitious. They want great things. They want great things from certain people, particularly certain people. And I feel that there is a problem in that also with expectations and how we don't really manage our expectations.
So I was listening to Manoj Bajpayee sir talk about it, and he was trying to like come to terms with why is there so much anger? Why? Because Gulshan, like online, I have to like disconnect from it so bad because there is so much anger targeted towards so many people. And sir was saying that Sushant was a representation of a lot of aspirants who would be like, maybe this is possible. Maybe it is possible to really work your socks off and then make it big in an industry where you're not welcome. And when that gets abruptly snatched away, it sort of like hits you really hard.
Anmol, what is it? I mean, the hurt is anger is a bit misplaced, and I'll get to that. I will not really beat the drum and wave the flag of this is why people turn their backs on him and stuff like that, because we really don't know. I feel that this is a time, this is a wake up call where we need to mourn the death of like somebody like Sushant, who was such a bright spot. He was an inspiration to other people, maybe not to me, but to other people. There were a lot of things like somebody like me would learn from him, the way, the game, like the hustle. And you would see like, man, he's really like, he came from, and he is really like, he's getting all I wanted to be in Kaipochi. I wanted his role, I didn't get it. So he figured out how to do that, I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but he hustled his way in. Bravo, man, like really. I pat him on the back for that, but but you learn from such things, and there is absolutely no malice. And he was a sense of inspiration for people. He was a source of inspiration. People wanted to be like, we can prove ourselves if we do things the right way. But how many, it's like, I don't know, it's tiring. How many hands will you shake? How many asses will you kiss? How much appeasement will you do, or whatever? What is the game? Like some people play the game a different way. It's going to be tiring, and it's hard. It's tough for anybody. And it's really unfair that the anger has been channelized against a certain agenda, towards a certain agenda. I think it's really unfair.
And Gulshan, the craziest part is everyone from the WhatsApp groups to the media to creators, they're just capitalizing off of someone's loss. And it's just something that I guess I can't really deal with.
There is something that we need to do, is that we need to introspect, because a lot of us really need to change our ways, the way we play the game, as I say.
Like, Gulshan, it's so crazy that me being a random digital media guy who's interacted with maybe a few actors in a year in Bombay can clearly see the demarcation. It exists. We can't deny it. You can see, but that's for any industry where there are even more prevalent in the Hindi film industry, where there are clear demarcations that this is where our click is, this is where our click is. But then to understand how to play the game and all of that is such an oscillating experience in itself, that you are sort of in your head about a lot of things on how things will transpire.
Something that's working for you today may not work for you tomorrow. You have to accept the failure sometimes. That's how it is. I'm not going to justify that, we are okay with nepotism or favoritism or camps and cliques. There is definitely a power structure. There are power structures. There are various power structures, starting from, say, a casting company to actors, stars, production houses, producers, music directors. There are always people who wield a certain amount of power, and they wield it as they please sometimes in ways that really, that is favorable to them. So you can't really, one has to negotiate all those things, and it can be really hard. And which is why it's so disturbing when somebody who's doing so well for themselves. Again, I'm saying that I don't know why he did it, but it seems like he gave up.
Yeah. Gulshan, also then, the thing is that a lot of the viewers are creative aspirants also in many ways, be it writers and aspiring actors and guys who want to be behind the camera for a lot of things. What would be sort of your small advice, or just any wise words that you would want to say about, just in general, about expectations, reality, Bombay in general, everything about it?
This is not a government job where there is a quota, or any kind of a job where they're saying that, so this many people to that, this you get this much marks. There's no quota system over here. You have to figure your way out, and there's always a hustle, and it's a game you have to play. Whether you're being a technician or you're being a background artist, also to get the union memberships and be in that clique. Everybody has those cliques. There's no structure like that, because it's not it's been corporatized, but the money and the funding and the financing has been corporatized. But a lot of other things remain same, or kind of like unorganized. The way in is always like that. You don't have placements where producers go and sit somewhere and saying that hum log assistant directors ka placement karenge, which you have in like an IT company in a sector, or like if you go to any of the IITs and engineering and all that. So there is a proper channel to go over there. गवर्नमेंट की नौकरी चाहिए तो आप वो अर्जी देके कर सकते हो, और कुछ लोग जो एलिजिबल है उनको वो कोटा से भी फायदा होता है ना? वो कुछ नहीं है. All these things don't exist. So don't come here with the delusion of a sense of entitlement to saying that I'm capable, I'm talented, I should get it. Because no, that rule does not work here. It's never going to work. You have to find your way, and you have to be prepared to lose as many times as you have to. And you have to be okay with that. You have to find a way to be okay with that. Many people have found peace in that. They said, "हमने try किया नहीं हुआ." You have to find something, some way to protect yourself. And there are a lot of people who come here and go all in. They come all in, and then they are exhausted in a year because they just can't keep up with it. How much will you hustle? And I keep using this word because that's what it is: networking, hustle, game. Why do so many people go to award functions? Because they get an opportunity to meet the clique members, and you hope that they'll call you and say, "Sit next to us." In the hope. Sometimes they'll do that also. Come sit next to us, but that doesn't mean that the next time also you'll get invited. Does it mean that you're a member of a clique now? You don't know. There are always power structures, and I'm telling you, a lot of these power structures are not run by families. It's very unfair to sort of point out some people. I will slightly debunk this nepotism thing. I'll give you two instances. I was shooting in Goa for Dammarodam. A lot of people used to come there, sometimes mistaking me for Raj Babbar's son. He was shooting in the film. They didn't even know his name. They hadn't seen anything. They knew Raj Babbar's son was shooting. They came to see that, and it's just regular people. Right? Can you blame them for why? They're curious. right? Creates a certain curiosity. Now, if in the local theater, Raj Babbar's son's film is playing, wouldn't they want to go and see? Let's go check it out. हम लोग गए थे ना shooting देखने, वो था ना. Many times they used to come and think I am Raj Babbar's son. I used to give pictures also. हाँ चलो मैं हूँ Raj Babbar. Yeah. And I was shooting for Fallen, and my very dear friend Aira Khan, who's Amir's daughter. She's in the direction department there. राजस्थान में लोग आते थे, भीड़ जमी होती थी वहाँ पे आमिर खान की बेटी को देखने. It used to make her feel very uncomfortable, but they didn't even know her name. They didn't even know how she looked. They all used to like Aamir Khan ki beti kaun hai. It is really strange. And then you blame producers for trying to capitalize on that sense of curiosity. It's a bit unfair, isn't it? If you had like अरे Mr. Devaya का बेटा यहाँ पे shoot कर रहे हैं, कौन Mr. Devaya? Why should I expect that somebody would know me? I'll have to prove myself. Everybody eventually has to prove themselves. कितने प्रोड्यूसर के बेटे बेटियां हैं जो फिल्म मेकर्स बने, एक्टर्स बने, जो नहीं काम कर रहे हैं आज, right? Shahrukh Khan was an outsider, Madhuri Dixit was an outsider, Ayushmann Khurrana is an outsider. I'm saying even like people like, don't you think like people like Jaideep Palawat, you would say that now letting go film star name, do you think he's successful? He's a success story, man. Mithila Palkar is a success story. They are successful people, and we have to stop measuring success with box office glory. They all have stories, and they're all sources of inspiration. It's damn tough to like get a job because it's that much more competitive, because there are a lot more. पहले एक जमाने में ना talent की कमी थी, talent pool की कमी थी. A lot of outsiders would not even like, I don't know how to negotiate this cow's digestive system called Bollywood करके नहीं आते थे. But now we come. We brave it, like we come whatever, like tools in hand, we come sharpened, unsharpened, raw, like we'll figure it out. We come here, and then some people are success also. Like Ayushmann is doing terribly well for himself. Shah was doing terribly well for himself. Raj is doing so. It's really unfair to sort of make this huge.
This versus that.
It is a problem. I'm not saying that it's bad, it's good. I'm not saying that we should. But it's pointing fingers and blaming everything, everybody's failure on somebody's privilege or advantage. I didn't have that advantage, bro. Like I had to come and figure it out. So many others had to come and figure it out.
Yeah.
But if we keep complaining, then there is something wrong, because it's a symptom. Not the.
Gulshan, I think that's the best way to put it. And it's good to get a perspective and a realistic picture of just how it is and how many examples there are of people who have gone past the several issues and roadblocks there are, and they've persevered from there as well. Yeah.
There's favoritism also. Like many people don't want to work with some people because of that positioning, or we don't like them, or they'll overshadow us. And I'm telling you, man, a lot of them are not people who come under legacy families. They don't have famous surnames. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. Is it? And it's disappointing. Now you want to ask me if it's happened to me? Yeah, man, more than once. Has it happened to somebody else? Yeah, man, it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
There's a everybody who can wield power will wield it.
The metal to carry on. And
but someday that power will go away from you. You have to be okay with that also.
Yeah.
It doesn't last forever. I give the example. Everybody will not have a long career like Mr. Bachchan. He's an anomaly. He's a abnormality. From a young age to he's still going.
Still relevant.
Such a long industry. Nobody has such long careers, and you can't even try to have long. Maybe you will. Maybe you'll have longer. Maybe you will. But these are all rare cases of that longevity. That relevance, and the greatest fear for an actor is that you will lose your relevance. I'm telling you, I'm shit scared of like 2 years down the line, people will not be able to see me in roles because I lose my relevancy for whatever reason. That I don't fit in certain kinds of stories, or they'll forget me and all that. This will get you, and you have to find ways to protect yourself, because this can also lead to serious mental issues.
Yeah.
And it's a very lonely place to be an actor, because acting is easy. Being an actor is tough. Acting is once you learn it, I mean, a lot of people figure it out on the job also. Yeah, but being an actor is tough, and you have to prepare, and nobody teaches you that. And this is what happens when tragedies such as this happen. I want to take this moment to tell everybody to take this opportunity to introspect, and this is a wake-up call. Yes, a tragedy has happened, but it's a wake-up call. And also the time we are living in right now, we have nothing to do, but actually we are sitting in our homes. We have time to think about what we are doing and what we shouldn't do, so that we don't have to make that choice ever.
I remind myself again and again that the future me is an asshole, and he will take care of himself. I'm not his slave, and I'll not work for him.